it up, let it roll. Stars and stripes in my soul. Steel toes on, boots in the gravel. Heartland truth on every channel. Open Bible, flag on the wall. We say what we believe when we don't talk it all. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. We back the badge, we guard the border. We love our guns and law and order. They try to shame every word we say, but we don't bow down, we just press play. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the bell. Hey, we won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. You can cancel the show, but not the crowd. We're still here, still talking loud. Hand of the free on every spell. Hit that mic, host, let the truth ring out. This is red, white, and raised hell. Cowboy hat, church bell can't scare us into silence. We were born to rail from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raised hell.
All right, good morning. Welcome, everybody. Look at that screen. Yeah, the SPLC, sometimes called the Southern Poverty Law Center, called by me socialist pushing leftist crap. That's how we start on this Thursday morning. Good morning to you, everybody. Appreciate you being here. That's the wrong screen. There's the right screen. Let's get us up and loaded and ready to go today. We're going to hit that hard. We're going to hit it hard because they deserve to be hit hard. I mean, they were scumbags from the beginning, but now that we know what they've been doing, now that we know that they have actually been funding the very hate groups that they purport to be trying to rein in so that they can make the right look bad, funding them so that they can actually be used as kind of useful idiots. Unbelievable what is being revealed now, thanks to the DOJ and the FBI. Todd Blanche yesterday and Kash Patel. I'm going to have a little bit of that press conference from Kash talking about what they're being charged with, and we're going to dive into it very, very quickly because we're going to do this for the first hour. We got a few things to hit before the second hour. We have a couple of great conversations scheduled. Coming up at 8 o'clock, we're going to talk with Doris Peters. Doris is one of our Unfiltered insiders. And we're talking with her because she is also a candidate for State Central Committee. And we've been talking about precinct strategy and the importance of filling these central committee roles in order to make sure that we can identify the best conservatives to run for office. It's extraordinarily important work so that we can try to keep the rhinos out. So we're going to talk to Doris about her campaign. That'll be coming up here at 8 o'clock. And then a little bit of a larger office. We need somebody to run the elections and beyond in the state of Ohio. And Marcell Strbich is my personally endorsed candidate. I have given my stamp of approval to Marcell in large part because I've been talking to him for a few years on radio and now on the podcast. And I told him, I said, every time he would call or every time I would reach out and he had something specific on elections and election integrity and improving the security of elections in the state of Ohio. Every time I said, Marcell, I said, you know this better than anybody who's been in the Secretary of State's office. You know this better than anybody who wants to be in the Secretary of State's office. Why don't you run for Secretary of State? And maybe it was a nudge that pushed him over the edge to say, all right, I'll freaking do it. And he has done it. He's winning a lot of endorsements around the state, despite having a, a very, very small war chest, if you will, for the campaign compared to Robert Sprague, who has been given, of course, the endorsement of the ORP and all of the money that comes with it. So it's a big deal. It is. And Marcell is still the guy. And so we're going to talk to him about where we are now, less than 2 weeks away from the actual GOP primaries. So and that's where we are. Excuse me again. I've got a lot to share with you this morning. I want to start with what has been alleged by Kash Patel and the Department of Justice. I want to dive into this SPL. I mean, in case you don't know, let me throw this to you first. This is a list that I compiled of some of the conservative and, in many cases, religious groups that have been targeted by the SPLC, which again we'll call the socialist pushing leftist crap. These are groups that have been targeted and made their list of hate groups, the kind of thing where, look, let's be real. Charlie Kirk said it best. If you land on the SPLC's hate group, you are doing a job. You are doing a phenomenal job, because they'll do everything they can to chop you down and to try to, diminish your effectiveness and to try to crush your organization, to humiliate you as well. I think I have a clip of Charlie Kirk, and you may have seen that bouncing around the internet or on news in the last couple of days. Yeah, here it is. I want to share this one with you because Charlie Kirk, God, we miss that man. We really need him so much right now. But Charlie Kirk, excuse me, there he is. Talked about when Turning Point USA was added to the hate list, if you will, from the SPLC, and this is what Charlie had to say about that. Listen.
Understand that they're literally putting high school chapters of ours on a hate group next to the KKK and next to neo-Nazi groups. And I mean, we can laugh this off. There's an element to this. Remember that there was a shooter that went to the Family Research Council years ago, inspired by the SPLC list. This is them trying to make us basically surrender at Turning Point USA. We're going to do the opposite, and our students are only going to lean in even more. But they can't debate us on our ideas. They cannot have dialogue. They cannot actually go onto the merits of why they are right or why we might be wrong. Instead, they must smear us with the age-old one-liner that you are a racist or that you are a hater. And they're finally realizing the power of Turning Point USA, which is why they put us on this list.
Well, when you're effective, you're a threat.
After Charlie,
that's exactly correct. When you're effective, you are a threat. And Charlie Kirk explained that exceptionally well, as he did pretty much everything. So let me share a little bit with you now of exactly what we know. The SPLC targeted groups such as Alliance Defending Freedom. They called that a hate group. Alliance Defending Freedom is a major religious liberty law firm that argues First Amendment and religious freedom cases. How awful, how hateful. The SPLC labeled the Alliance Defending Freedom group anti-LGBTQ because they actually defended people's rights to not have to participate in other people's mental delusions. Because Alliance Defending Freedom had clients that did not want to call a man a woman and a woman a man, or a woman or man some sort of non-existent pronouns or name or identity or species or whatever. They called that hateful. It's one of the most successful constitutional law groups in the country, the Alliance Defending Freedom is. Number two, the Family Research Council. It focuses on family policy, religious liberty, what a terrible thing, and social conservatism. The SPLC designated the Family Research Council a hate group, and in 2012, a shooting targeting the Family Research Council was cited as being driven by the existence of the SPLC list and the Family Research Council's name upon it. So the SPLC identifying the Family Research Council as a hate group inspired a left-wing act of violence. Gee, where have we heard that before? Hundreds and hundreds of times before. Number 3, the AFA, the American Family Association, another, another Christian advocacy group focused on media and cultural issues, labeled by the SPLC as a hate group because of its positions on sexuality and religion. In other words, because they preach the Bible, and the Bible preaching what it does about sexuality and about sexual orientation. Supporters say it reflects traditional religious views, which of course it does, because that's what the Bible says. And apparently, if you now preach and practice the Bible, it makes you a hate group, according to socialist pushing leftist crap, or the SPLC. The Center for Immigration Studies has been branded a hate group by this organization. They are an immigration policy research group. They produce data-driven policy analysis that is used by lawmakers. What they do is they count people. They count illegal aliens who are in the country. They track statistics on crimes committed by illegal aliens in the country so that the people of this country might be better protected against them. Apparently, that makes you a hate group. Next, FAIR, the Federation for American Immigration Reform, an organization that I've worked closely with for going on 15 years, probably. I've been to FAIR, and they're holding their feet to the fire event down in Washington, D.C., 3 different times, interviewing policymakers and legislators and others. I guess that makes me a hateful, part of a hate group too. FAIR advocates for reduced immigration levels. It focuses on sovereignty and labor policy, and they hate that. Number 6, this is another one of the conservative groups that the SPLC has decided is a hate group. Act for America. Act for America. National Security Anti-Terrorism Grassroots Network. So apparently, if you're anti-terrorism, that makes you a hate monger. It makes you part of a hate group. Let those terrorists be, says the SPLC. The SPLC calls it anti-Muslim. Well, if Muslims are practicing terrorism, then it sure as diggity gosh dang well is anti-Muslim, because Muslim/Islam has no place in Western civilization. None, especially in this country. And before you start to say, wait a minute, didn't you just champion groups that are for religious freedom? Yes, I did. And here's my response. Islam is not a religion. It is a political ideology. All right? It is not a religion. Number 7, Moms for Liberty. This apparent hate group is a parental rights group involved in school board activism, trying to make sure that children are taught how to read and write and to study science and to real science, not pseudoscience, and literature and so forth, without being indoctrinated by radical left-wing nonsense such as transgender theory, otherwise known as a social contagion. At any rate, they were just added to the SPL's extremist or hate list because of their grassroots parent involvement. You can't make this crap up. Parents Defending Education is on the list, focuses on curriculum transparency and opposition to school policies, such as the indoctrinational ones that we talked about a few seconds ago. Turning Point USA, Charlie's group, which I started this conversation with, campus-based conservative activist group, called a hate group by the SPLC because, why? Because they dare to actually go on campus and encourage people to discuss in civil conversations all of these important issues without just accepting everything that they are told by the left-wing teachers unions as fact. and college professors who are 95% liberal as well. Apparently, that makes them hateful. Dare challenge the liberal orthodoxy? Well, that makes you a hate monger. And number 10 is as far as there are more than these 10. These are just my top 10 examples that I put together searching through it last night. Prager U. Prager U has been labeled a hate group for putting together animated 5-minute factoids of what the truth is about, a variety of issues. American history, chief among them, and modern social issues of the day as well. But they're educational, and the SPLC says this is a hate group. You've seen Prager U. So it's just as extraordinarily stupid as you would imagine that it is. Now, what did the FBI announce yesterday? What did they say the SPLC is doing? Let's check in now. I want to play this clip for you. This is FBI. Dylan's off today, so I got to do this all myself, so I apologize if it's a little bit clunky. Dylan's under the weather. Hope he feels better soon. But here's what FBI Director Kash Patel said yesterday about this.
What we're here today is to announce what the general just told you. The Southern Poverty Law Center, in a massive sweeping indictment, has been charged with allegations of fraud and using the banking system to perpetrate that fraud. I just want to talk about a couple brief things here. The Southern Poverty Law Center themselves advertise to raise money to dismantle violent extremist groups for a period of at least a decade. They use their donor network to raise money to purportedly dismantle violent extremist groups. However, the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, used the money they raised from their donor network to actually pay the leadership of these very groups. I just want to say that again. They used the fraudulently raised money by lying to their donor network, thousands of Americans, to go ahead and actually pay the leadership of these supposed violent extremist groups. The groups, as the general laid out, include the Ku Klux Klan, the United Klans of America, Unite to Right, National Alliance, the National Socialist Movement, the Aryan Nation Motorcycle Club, and the National Socialist Party of America, and also the American Front. In at least one of these matters, our investigation revealed that funds were used to facilitate the commission of further state and federal offenses, totaling over $3 million. Furthermore, our investigation revealed that the Southern Poverty Law Center, on top of perpetuating this widespread, decade-long, multi-million-dollar fraud, conducted more criminal activity. They attempted to hide their criminal activity from our financial banking network. They set up shell companies and entities around America so that the financial institutions that we rely on as everyday Americans were deceived in believing that money was not coming from the Southern Poverty Law Center in the perpetration of this scheme and fraud, but rather fictitious entities they stood up to perpetuate this ongoing fraud. This is a serious and egregious violation of a group that purported to dismantle violent extremist groups, but in turn actually only fueled the hatred. This is an important case brought by President Trump's administration. We're thankful to the president for his leadership and funding of not just the FBI and DOJ, but his commitment to go out there and wipe out fraud and conspiracy and waste and abuse wherever it occurs, including the Southern Poverty Law Center. Even though this money was made to appear to be coming from legitimate people and legitimate entities, we at the FBI, with our great partners at the Department of Justice and in the state of Alabama, were able to comb through a decade worth of material, a scheme that took a decade to build, so that we were able to follow the money, because money never lies, and they got caught. As the Attorney General said, these charges are varying. They are widespread and wide-ranging, and this investigation is very much ongoing. Today, we're here to announce the charges of the Southern Poverty Law Center, and this investigation and the individuals who are responsible will be brought to justice. Thank you, General. What we're here today is to announce
All right. Sorry about the muting. Yeah, doggone it. Yeah, my apologies. Every time I mute the mic when I'm playing a clip from somebody like Kash Patel, like I just was, every time I mute the mic to clear my throat and I forget to turn it back on. That's why we have Dylan, but Dylan's sick today. Like I said, that's literally why Dylan is my guy behind the scenes. But he texted me about an hour before the show this morning and said he's a little bit under the weather, is not going to be able to work with me today. I said, no problem, we got this. But of course, we don't got this when, like I said, I've got to control the mic and the camera and the clips and everything else all at the same time. So my apologies. Sorry about that. Again, that's why we're trying to grow this. We need more help so that the one-man band doesn't end up muted for a while there. So I can't remember exactly when I came back and when I was muted. I guess it was during the Kash Patel clip. So I'll pick it up from that point again. So what you just heard from the FBI director, Kash Patel, is, pretty extraordinary. He didn't list things that he thought. He didn't list things that that President Trump, that list of charges didn't come from President Trump's Truth Social account. That list of charges, the list of indictments, came from a grand jury. All right. Evidence was presented to them about the SPLC and what they have done, and the grand jury returned these charges. So just so you know, this isn't like some weird conservative, Republican, Trumpian, MAGA-driven conspiracy thing to try to take down a political enemy like the SPLC. This is what a grand jury returned, all right? So this is really important here. So what the SPLC, otherwise known as the socialists pushing leftist crap, what they have been accused of is wire fraud, false statements, and conspiracy to commit money laundering to these violent racist groups. Ready? The Ku Klux Klan, the American Nazi Party, the Aryan Nation, the United Klans of America. I didn't know there was more than one Klan, to be truthful, but apparently there are, and they unite. The United Klans of America. The SPLC gives money to the gave money to the Unite the Right National Alliance, and that, of course, goes back to the Charlottesville story. The National Socialist Movement, you know what National Socialists are, right? Nazis. So that's one of those weird things that a lot of people on the left, they don't acknowledge whenever they talk about fascism and they talk about Hitler and Nazis and so forth. The Nazi Party was a socialist party. The connection between socialism and fascism is very, 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 very strong, and it's very, very close. And a lot of people don't understand that. But the National Socialist Movement that they gave money to is actually basically the Nazi Party. They gave money to the Sadistic Souls Motorcycle Club, which was a neo-Nazi organization, and a group called the American Front. To hide the payments that they were giving to these hate groups that they then used to target, they used these hate groups to be able to target the right, big picture, the right writ large, conservatism. They wanted to lump everybody in as the alt-right or the far right or whatever you want to call it. So they gave these groups money to go out there and do things, to do bad things, so that they could then condemn those bad things and try to win the ideological culture war, if you will, by saying, look at what the right does. I mean, I said this yesterday. It is very, 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 very close to what happened on January 6th. January 6th, they put federal agents inside a crowd of peaceful people and riled them up and ginned them up into being not peaceful. And then use that to be able to condemn. And we found this out. I mean, all of this has been exposed. People like Ray Epps saying, we got to go inside. Let's go. And people are like, what are you talking about? No, come on, we got to go. And riled up a few among a crowd of thousands to go in and storm the Capitol. And then condemn the storming of the Capitol and call it an insurrection to try to lock up and throw these people in prison for the rest of their lives. That's what they did. All right. So to hide the payments to these quote unquote hate groups, the SPLC allegedly opened bank accounts under fictitious entities to conceal the source and the control of the donor funds. According to the indictment, the SPLC an SPLC field source was a member of the online leadership chat group that planned the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. It then made racist posts under SPLC supervision and helped coordinate transportation to the event. I want to hammer the hell out of this part of this, okay? I want to share this with you now. This is an example of what the SPLC does and did. Now, this might not be the easiest thing for you to see based on the screen that I'm seeing right now, because it's a little, well, I can, yeah, there you go. I can make it a little bit bigger that way, but that gets us to, yeah, maybe not. All right. I'm just going to have to play it for you. It's just not very large, but you're going to have to see it. So I'll read this to you as well, just so you know the specifics here. The Very Fine People hoax got a major plot twist. It turns out the Unite the Right group that was involved in Charlottesville was a left-wing funded front group. It was a hoax upon a hoax upon a hoax. The Justice Department just indicted, I won't reread all of this, the SPLC, but this is aiding and abetting literally a criminal conspiracy if proven true in a court of law. The hoaxes the Democrat Party weaponized in order to fuel riots, smear its opposition, and racially divide Americans. Trump did not call the white supremacists and extremists at the SPLC that the SPLC funded Very Fine People, yet the DNC propaganda media pushed that lie. The Unite the Right front group was funded by the same SPLC that was providing the Democrats with their anti-hate talking points. I mean, you can't give them credit for creativity. Look at what they were able to pull off. Joe Biden claimed he ran for president because of the Very Fine People hoax. The SPLC was behind it. Was that coincidence or a massive DNC-minded master plot? It's a very fair question. It's as damning as it gets in American politics. So I want to play this for you here. The first is just a reminder of what President Trump said, and then a reminder of what Joe Biden claimed drove him to actually run for president. So watch. All right, we're not hearing that either for some reason. How come?
You had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly.
And the press, of course, treated President Trump absolutely unfairly by literally wiping that part out, by literally eliminating that part from the president's speech. They edited his remarks there to have him just say, there are very fine people on both sides. He condemned totally the neo-Nazi groups, any of the white supremacy groups, any of those things that were part of the Unite the Right rally that were violent, etc. He condemned them totally. He said, because he's right. There were innocent people there that had nothing to do with the Unite the Right rally. They had nothing to do with these groups, but they were there just to protest the removal of a statue that they felt was a part of American history. That's it. And they were very fine people, just there being First Amendment supported patriots. Whether you agree with them or not about the Robert E. Lee statue is irrelevant. But they were there and they are fine people. They didn't commit any crimes. They didn't engage in any battles. They didn't start a battle with the Antifa crew. You know who started the battle with the Antifa crew? The people who were paid to start a battle with the Antifa crew. The Unite the Right side, the neo-Nazis, were paid by the SPLC to fight with Antifa. And I will not be surprised, and hopefully this will come out in the trial of the SPLC when this hits the actual courtroom. Hopefully we'll find out that the SPLC also paid Antifa. They paid both sides to clash, and that led to the death of a woman, Heather Heyer. That's what I believe happened. We know the first part. Obviously, that's what this indictment is there to prove. Now, we have to go through the trial, but we know that part. But let's play the rest of the clip here. So President Trump saying very clearly, the hate groups, the neo-Nazi groups need to be condemned totally. But there were some very fine people that were there not to be a part of that, and they were victimized too. Antifa was there ready for battle in armor. I mean, seriously, in armor, helmets and everything else along with their bats, and they were ready to go. That's not organic. That was planned and plotted. And now we know, I thought it was just by, the Democrats, but by the SPLC itself. And of course, that Unite the Right rally at Charlottesville is what led to this crap.
You had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists,
All right.
because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly.
I ran for president in 2020 because of what I saw in Charlottesville in August of 2017. Extremists coming out of the woods, carrying torches, their veins bulging from their necks, carrying Nazi swastikas, and chanting the same exact anti-Semitic bile that was heard in Germany in the early 30s. Neo-Nazis, white supremacists, the Ku Klux Klan, so emboldened by a president then in the White House that they saw as an ally.
You had people.
Come to find out.
I ran
All
for
right, all right, all
president
right, all
in
right,
2020.
all right, all right.
And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and
All right. Come to find out that the groups that Biden was talking about there were not inspired by a president. They were inspired by the funds they received from the left-wing, socialist-pushing leftist crap organization. They were funded by the SPLC. That's why they were there. They were paid to be there. They had their expenses all covered. They were there to start a war, a fight, a brawl, a riot, whatever, so that the left could use that to actually campaign and to try to take down the Trump administration. That's what we're finding out. Todd Blanche, the Attorney General, said yesterday the SPLC is manufacturing racism to justify its own existence. Using donor money to allegedly profit off of Klansmen cannot go unchecked. That's extraordinary. And that statement it sounds accurate, right? They're literally manufacturing racism so that they can justify their own existence. We have to create a boogeyman. We have to create the enemies on the right so that we can exist as a left, and then do what? Fundraise off of it. The SPLC made millions in donations because of events like this. The scheme ran from 2014 to 2023. The FBI calls it an ongoing investigation, even though they already have enough info to bring these charges, or to at least present them to a grand jury that returned indictments. So the Middle District of Alabama charges the SPLC with 11 counts total. 1 to 6 counts 1 to 6 were on wire fraud. 7 to 10 were on false statements to a federally insured bank. And the last one, conspiracy to commit concealment of money laundering. Prosecutors also filed 2 forfeiture actions to recover the alleged proceeds from the fraud scheme. So the heart of the indictment, as I understand it, says that the SPLC raised money from their donors, millions upon millions of dollars, by presenting itself as an organization working to dismantle white supremacy and confront hate, while secretly using some of the donated funds to pay people to be white supremacists, to actually engage in the actions like you saw at the Unite the Right situation. The scheme ran from 2014 to 2023. I already listed the groups that got paid. The indictment gives examples of the fundraising language it says was used to bring in donations. It cites the SPLC stated mission as being a catalyst for racial justice. Well, it turns out they were actually a catalyst for racism. They paid people to go out and do racist stuff so that they could then say, look at that horrible racist stuff. Give us money and we'll fight back against it. It's like, doesn't even begin. Money laundering and fraud doesn't even begin to cover that. People lose their lives in things like this. SPLC donor facing language saying support would power its work to confront hate, stand up to injustice, and defend our civil and human rights. It references SPLC publications like Intelligence Report, Hate Watch, Intelligence Project Dispatch, etc., as part of their public-facing anti-extremism posture. The document gets very concrete, listing several examples of those sources. And I don't want to dig too much deeper into this now because it's already 7:41. But this is one of the biggest exposés of leftist fraud, I don't know, that I've seen in a very, very long time. We're talking about literally creating a slush fund by playing off of people's worst fears, that there are racist groups out there, that there are white nationalist hate groups, white supremacy groups, neo-Nazi groups out there just targeting black and brown people. And that the only way to stop it was to donate money to that group, which was going to go out there and fight against this horrific racism. They manufacture it. I mean, this is the age-old story that we've talked about on many other occasions. They start a fire in the front of the house. Then they run to the back of the house and put on a fireman's outfit and come running with a bucket of water. We've got it. We'll handle this. Look at us. Aren't we heroic? That's what they just did. They started a fire in 2017 in Charlottesville. That's just one example, by the way. The list is much, much longer, but that's perhaps the most high priority or high profile one. But they start the fire there. And then they come running with the buckets and saying, we are the SPLC and we will expose and push and prosecute. And the only way we can do these things, by the way, is with your money. Send us money. They got oh my gosh, the amount of money they got from some of the biggest left-wing millionaire and billionaire donors in the country. It was extraordinary. It is, again, graft of the highest order. The grifters participating in the graft, which is literally public funds being given, not public funds, they're private funds being given to this organization so that they can establish public policy. So that's where we are right now, the SPLC. And I hope everybody, I'm going to make a t-shirt, SPLC, because I'm still building the store, by the way. We're putting together an online, strictly speaking, unfiltered store. The ice shirts, obviously, were the first item, but we're going to put some other things in there. And I'm thinking of new ideas every day. And that is the new one, the SPLC. Socialist pushing leftist crap. That's what they really are. And they've been exposed now. All right. I want to take a moment here to say thank you to some of our tremendous sponsors. I've got some real true heroic, patriotic, I guess is what I want to call them, patriotic sponsors who have decided to step up and be foundational partners with me on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. And this one is our friends at AFP, the Americans for Prosperity Ohio organization, that stepped up with, by the way, the Buckeye Blueprint. The Buckeye Blueprint is a policy platform. It is a grassroots-driven organization dedicated to taking Ohio out of its middle of the pack status and putting us at the forefront of the nation on 3 E's: energy, education, and economy. More money in more Ohioans' pockets. More control over the education of children by Ohio's parents. And more use of our extraordinary resources that we have in the state of Ohio to generate an abundance of energy. We should not be in the bottom third or the middle of 50 states when it comes to these areas. We should be at the top. And the Americans for Prosperity, AFP Ohio organization, is leading the way. It's not about politics as much as it is about policy, but all of it requires our support. So if you have ever thought about volunteering for an organization, how about going to buckeyeblueprint.com, and consider volunteering for AFP Ohio. That is what it's going to take to make sure that Ohio can be what it should always be, and that is one of the leaders in the United States of America. All right. So I want to move on to another topic now, because again, I've got some guests coming up at the top of the hour and at the bottom of the next hour. I want to share with you. Yesterday, I did quite a bit of work on the governor's race because I wanted to expose as much as I could Casey Putsch and his just really radical, wild, out there racism, anti-Vivek Ramaswamy racism, anti-Indian, anti-immigrant. That's right, even legal immigrants. The stuff that Casey Putsch is doing out there. So I did a lot of governor's race conversation yesterday. I want to spend just a few minutes on it today in a different way. This isn't about Casey Putsch anymore. This is about smearing of Vivek Ramaswamy by actually other Republicans. That's what I'm seeing here, and I'm just really, really baffled by it. Most people know, or many people know, Benny Johnson. Benny Johnson is a conservative commentator. He's got a massive following online. He's very, very tight with Turning Point USA. He spoke at Charlie Kirk's memorial service, and great conservative patriot. I've got nothing bad to say about Benny Johnson at all. But Benny Johnson did an extended commentary last night attacking Vivek Ramaswamy for saying something that he said at the Turning Point event at Ohio State. And so I'm going to play what Vivek Ramaswamy said that has Benny and a lot of others, not but a lot, but enough and prominent enough to warrant this conversation. This is what had them so up in arms and so angry. And when you look, I'm going to share this with you. Let me pull it up because I want you to read what Vivek Ramaswamy wrote as a part of this tweet promoting his own commentary that he did at the event. So let me pull this up. All right. Now, again, if you can't see that, if you're watching on a small screen, that's not much I can do about that, but I'll do my best here to read this to you, okay? So Vivek Ramaswamy posted this tweet or X post on Tuesday after the event that happened on Monday, and about 7:54 p.m., and you can see what he wrote is what he said in the actual speech. You can travel to Italy, but you'll never be an Italian. You can travel to France, but you'll never be a Frenchman. You can live in Germany, but you'll never be a German. But you can pack your bags and live the rest of your life in China or Japan. You'll never be Chinese or Japanese. But you can come from any of these countries to the United States and be an American. Okay? Now that's the gist of the remarks that he made, but it's not the core, the most important part. What Benny and several others is doing is saying, how awful this is, that he is saying that you can just come to the United States and be an American, that there is nothing more to being an American than a piece of paper that says, okay, I'm a citizen now, and as long as I get to sign it, then I'm an American. They're arguing that being an American means much more than that. It means being a part of an American culture. It means being part of, having American history, a lineage, these kinds of things. And that's what the criticism of Vivek's remarks, has been. And I'm just going to say, while I agree with those aspects of Americanism, all of us started in America at some point. And Vivek isn't saying, come to the United States and sign your name on a dotted line and now you're an American, unlike other places. He's saying, come here and earn it, which is what we did, what our ancestors did. All right? Everybody, the United States was founded largely by Europeans, and they came here and earned what it meant to be an American. They created what it meant to be an American, and then they passed that on, and it was earned by so many others. And over the course of 250 years that we celebrate in this July, we have always known that we are, and this is what the left likes to say, we're a nation of immigrants. Yeah, legal immigrants who come here and do things the right way. The right way, which is what we always say. And that's all Vivek said. So I want you to listen to exactly what Vivek said, and I'm going to give you somebody else who said something very, very similar. All right? And I'm going to get into the chat here shortly and see what some of your reactions are. But this is what Vivek actually said that has a lot of conservatives in a tizzy about what it means to be an American. I want you to listen.
Ronald Reagan understood this well to some of our, let's just say, parents who are in the back, okay? We'll address Ronald Reagan from your generation. He understood this well. He famously said, right, you can travel to Italy, but you would never be an Italian. You can travel to France, but you'll never be a Frenchman. You can live in Germany, but you would never be a German. You can pack your bags and live the rest of your life in China or Japan, and you will never be Chinese or Japanese. But you can travel from any one of those countries to establish roots in the United States of America, and you can still be an American. so long as you work hard, you play by the rules, you make your contributions, wait your turn, pledge allegiance to the flag, and obtain your citizenship in the right way. That is America.
Help me out. What did he say that was wrong? What did he say that was untrue? What did he say that has conservatives bashing him online right now? First of all, he didn't even say it. Ronald Reagan said it. Ronald Reagan said that very thing. He was quoting Reagan and then added some stuff at the end to put some real, muster to it. Provided you come here and work your A off and you make contributions to America, you become American by being American. He said that. In what way is this some sort of a black mark against the candidacy of Vivek Ramaswamy for governor? He quoted Reagan. And just to bring you evidence of that, let's do this.
Since this is the last speech that I will give as president, I think it's fitting to leave one final thought, an observation about a country which I love. It was stated best in a letter I received not long ago. A man wrote me and said, "You can go to live in France, but you cannot become a Frenchman. You can go to live in Germany or Turkey or Japan, but you cannot become a German, a Turk, or Japanese. But anyone from any corner of the earth can come to live in America and become an American." Yes, the torch of Lady Liberty symbolizes our freedom and represents our heritage, the compact with our parents, our grandparents, and our ancestors. It is that lady who gives us our great and special place in the world. For it's the great life force of each generation of new Americans that guarantees that America's triumph shall continue unsurpassed into the next century and beyond.
Do I hear conservatives screaming about what Ronald Reagan said? Not to my knowledge. I haven't heard anybody say anything about what Ronald Reagan said in those remarks. But they're up in arms, some, over Vivek Ramaswamy, who said what Reagan said and then actually made it stronger. He actually made it stronger. So I'm going to play that part of this again. He obviously gives, proper attribution to President Reagan, but then he went on to say, it's not just getting, to the United States from one of those other countries that makes you an American, but it's what you do when you get here that can make you an American. This is what we all believe. I mean, I'm blown away at the criticism of Vivek Ramaswamy that I saw online last night from conservatives saying, I'm not going to vote for that guy now. He doesn't even know what it means to be an American. What the hell does it mean to be an American other than if you're not born here and have ancestry here? But if at the beginning, nobody was born here and had ancestry here. We all came here, or our ancestors did. And they literally defined what it meant to be an American. They kind of created it. They invented Americana. They invented Americanism. And anybody who came here in the first 50 years after, we actually settled the colonies, and then after the Revolutionary War, when we, declared our sovereignty and our own nation, people kept coming, and they kept coming, and they kept coming, and they're still coming legally. And with a goal to contribute to America, not leech off of America, not suck America's resources dry. That's what it means to be an American, to come here and contribute to America, to be a part of. What does President Reagan or President Trump say all the time? What do all of us who are part of that movement say? We want the merit system to be used when it comes to immigration to this country. We want to know, what can you contribute to this country that you wish to reside in and to become a citizen of? What can you do to make it better? What merit do you bring to the table? That's how we should do this. And that's all Vivek Ramaswamy said. Listen again.
Travel to France, but you'll never be a Frenchman. You can live in Germany, but you would never be a German. You can pack your bags and live the rest of your life in China or Japan. and you will never be Chinese or Japanese. But you can travel from any one of those countries to establish roots in the United States of America, and you can still be an American so long
To establish roots in the United States of America and be an American
as you work hard.
As long as you work hard.
You play by the rules.
That means you came here legally.
You make your contributions. Wait.
You bring something to the table. You make contributions to America.
Your turn. Pledge allegiance.
Wait your turn. I'm sorry, it's a little bit all running together there. You wait your turn. Again, you don't jump the line. You don't cross the border illegally. You don't come here on a student visa and then overstay and never leave. You do it right. You work hard. You make contributions.
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Allegiance to this country, not to the Mexican flag, not to the Guatemalan flag, not to the Syrian flag, not to any of the others that you saw them carrying in under Joe Biden in all of those illegal, massive, what do you call them? Why am I blanking on the word? The groups, the large, hordes of people flooding the border at the same time. Caravans is the word I'm thinking of. Caravans. 25,000, and they're waving flags of the foreign country that they're coming from rather than the flag that they want of the nation that they're invading right now that they say they want to be a part of. You pledge allegiance to this country, Vivek said.
And obtain your citizenship in the right way.
What's wrong with those
by the
things?
rules.
I'm gonna hit those again.
So long as you work hard. You play by the rules.
Play by the rules.
You make your contributions. Wait your turn. Pledge allegiance to the flag
allegiance
and
to
obtain your citizenship in the right way.
Tell me what I'm missing here. Literally, I'm going to dive into the chat now to see what I'm missing. Reagan said it. Vivek said it, and they're flipping out on Vivek saying, that's not what it's about to be an American, just putting your name on a piece of paper. Nobody said that just coming here and putting your name on a piece of paper makes you an American. He said, do those things. Do it legally, wait your turn, follow the rules, work hard, bring something to contribute to America, pledge allegiance to this country, not to others. That's right in line with what Senator Moreno said. No dual citizenship. You want to be an American citizen as an immigrant, renounce your citizenship to your other country. He's correct. And so is Vivek. How on earth is this in any way, shape, or form negative? So let me dive into the chat and see what's going on here. Okay. I'm going to scroll back a little bit. And yeah. Sorry about the muting thing. Like I said, when I don't have Dylan here pushing the buttons, I'm on my own to do like 6 or 7 different things at one time. And ADD makes that hard to do. So sorry about the muting, everybody. But let's dive in here. Okay. Biden said he was running because of Charlottesville. The SPLC paid for that demonstration. Nick Fuentes is funded by them. I don't know if I could put these up on the screen or not, like I said, because Dylan isn't here. But if I can try to do that for you, just so you can read along with me. Yeah, I think there it is. There we go. Okay. So now I can kind of scroll these a little bit better and put them up on the screen. So that was from the politically incorrect mechanic. The problem is no individuals are named, and you can put an individual in jail. I want people behind bars. So this is going back to the SPLC part of the story that I did for most of the first hour of the live stream this morning. I don't want to go that far back. More on Biden, more on Charlottesville, and this is all great stuff, by the way. I'm one of those who stand against tearing down history. Yeah, very fine people don't like tearing down American history. The only statue I support being torn down are the George Floyd statues. I don't blame you for that either. I apologize. I'm just trying to fast forward here to get up into the Vivek Ramaswamy story here. Okay, B. Morgan, there's the first one that I can see saying just vote Vivek. And it is Vivek, by the way. It's not Vivek. First time I met Vivek Ramaswamy, I said Vivek too, and the last name, and I may have pronounced it correctly or not. I don't know, but he said the first name. He said Vivek, like rake. So that's stuck in my head ever since then, like a rake. Oh, okay, so it's rake. So it's Vivek. Anyway, it's part of Vivek's speech he gave at Lincoln Day. Oh, okay. I thought he gave that speech when he was at Ohio State on Monday, but that's okay. Doesn't matter where it is, but it's just recent. That's the reason I thought it was a recent speech, because this is just on social media last night and he's being attacked for it, which I'll never understand, quite frankly, because of everything I just said. America is the third most populated nation on the planet. Let's see. And let me say this, by the way. Donna says, what I hear him saying is you can belong. Yes, as long as you are not here to freeload, as long as you're not here to soak up our resources and get whatever you can handed to you and be a welfare, queen. If you're here to come to the United States to work, as he said, and contribute, of course you can be an American. That's literally what the promise is. Why we are what we are. And by the way, I'm gonna hit this real quick too. One thing that Vice President Vance? There have been a few prominent people on the right, conservatives, who have said, and it was Vice President Vance, it said maybe what we need to think about is a temporary moratorium on all immigration to the United States because of the population, because of the number that we have here now illegally allowed in by Joe Biden, 10 to 20, or I think it was 12 to 20 million, depending on whose estimate you go with, in 4 years. Maybe we need to stop all immigration until we get a handle of what's going on here. And that means everybody who's waiting in line, continue to wait, be patient, your time will come, but we've got to clear out through deportation, many of the illegals who are here before we can start it up again. That doesn't mean you are opposed to legal immigration if you do want a temporary moratorium. I have called for that too. But I am absolutely for legal immigration because there are a lot of very fine people, just to play off of the other story, around the globe that would love to come here to participate, to work, to bring something to the table, to contribute, to pledge allegiance to America, to renounce their citizenship in their other country, who know that the American dream is the only dream. Let's be honest. There is no such thing as the Guatemalan dream. There is no such thing as the French dream. There is an American dream. People dream of coming here because of what we represent. And everything that we represent, everything that we have built, by the way, people have come here and contributed to. So I just want to be really, really clear about that. What Vivek was talking about is not inaccurate. Let me get a couple more on the comment side. Benny is nitpicking. Why? I don't know. Like I said, Benny's a patriot and one of the most phenomenal presenters of conservatism and MAGA that we have working in the new media today. I love Benny. I'm a fan. I follow. But I saw his 12-minute diatribe against Vivek Ramaswamy yesterday based on that speech, and I was blown away. It's like, what on earth did Vivek say that was not true? I don't have an issue with what Vivek said. However, we should put a hold on immigration for a while. Liberty Bell, boom. There you go. That's exactly what I was just saying and trying to remember. And as I said, I think Vice President Vance has said that in the past. Big Jake says, I carry German, French, and Bohemian blood, but all of those ancestors were American. Some were even Civil War vets. God bless. Marshall SPLC members to the gallows. March all SPLC members to the gallows. I won't say all of them, and I won't say the gallows is necessarily it, but you know what? A long-term prison sentence is absolutely required if they are convicted. I love Ronaldus Magnus. I'm assuming that's President Reagan. After that come to America comment, I wish he addressed mass deportation. I think the youth are fearful of those two words, especially whites, taught not to offend for so long. Mass deportation is not going at the speed that it should. 100% agree. But it's because of unprecedented obstruction that nobody has ever seen before, and hence the word unprecedented. But what they are doing is simply unfathomable. Let's see. Benny Johnson has this rant about Vivek pinned on his X account. I know he does. That's my point. That's why I wanted to call it out today. Call it out. I'm not looking to start a war with Benny. Benny's got 1 million or 2 million followers or whatever it is. You know, he's a titan in the new media game. He's been doing this for a long time. But I'm sorry, he's wrong on this one. He just is. What Vivek said is absolutely defensible. And I support it. I think some are more sensitive to the topic of immigration because of the 4 years of open borders. I have no doubt of that. Caravans, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Karen. Could be the pro-Christian, anti-Hindu bias Benny has. I like Benny, but I'm praying for a Vivek and Usha Vance Christian conversion instead. I would like to see them convert to Christianity too, but I'm not going to sit here and throw stones and say, Hindus are not Muslims. Hindus are not Muslims. Muslims, different story. You elect a Zoltar Mamdani. Yes, I call him Zoltar. You elect a Zoltar Mamdani who brings Islamism to New York City. I got a problem. You bring, somebody who's of Hindu faith, which is a peaceful religion, to each their own. Literally. It's in the First Amendment. We don't establish a religion here. We were founded on Christianity and Judeo-Christian principles, but we don't establish Christianity or any religion as must be. And we do, of course, not prohibit the free exercise thereof. And that includes Vivek Ramaswamy. So I'm not worried at all about his religion. We all recall Neil Diamond's song Coming to America. Yes, we do. That's a great song too. I'd play it, but I would get sued or have a strike against me for copyright violations. You could play it on radio, but not on a podcast, unfortunately. Rhymes with cake, rake, whatever. Assimilate. You come for freedom because become America, leave your old country allegiance behind. Joanne, spot on. That is exactly the point that we're making. Okay, so I think we kind of have the point made here, and I don't see any people sort of trying to defend the criticism of Vivek on this. So I hate to say this, but could it be some conservatives may have a problem with Vivek's nationality? It could. It could. We know Casey Putsch has a problem with it. We know that for a fact. As a matter of fact, yesterday I put another video out there. Basically,
Hey, Vivek, you want to play Cowboy versus Indian?
Hold on. I put this out there yesterday. I just kind of, dubbed over and put on a little loop this guy's extraordinarily racist rant against Vivek. We went through all this yesterday, so I'm not going to do it all again now. But like I said, I just put this up there yesterday or last night, in fact, while I was preparing today's live stream. And so I'll play it for you here. Yeah, Racy Putsch. I'm calling him Racy, not Casey, because he's all about race, and this is proof of it.
Hey, Vivek, you want to play Cowboy versus Indian? Cowboy versus Indian? Cowboy versus Indians? Don't worry, it's feather, not that. It's feather, not that.
I don't know that I've heard anything quite as racist as that from a candidate in a very, very long time, especially for a candidate for an office like governor of the state of Ohio. Don't worry, it's feather, not dot. I'm shooting at the feathered Indians, not the dot Indians, but obviously every other word out of his mouth is referencing Vivek Ramaswamy's Indian American heritage. He has a huge problem with it. So I think a lot of people do have a problem with that. Shamefully, I might add. Shamefully. Okay. I don't care if it's India. I don't care if it's, if you're a Chinese American, because there are millions of those too, and you actually left communist China like Xi Van Fleet because you hate communism and you hate what China stood for and you want freedom and embrace it here and you contribute here, God love you. You're a brother or a sister to me. And I think 99% of conservative Americans would say the same thing. You came here legally from a country that you don't like and you want to be American, let's go. It's where we all started in some way, shape, or form. But unfortunately, I think the nationality does pose a problem for some people. All right, before I do anything else, and I've got a guest waiting, I want to remind you of one of the most rare creatures on God's green earth. And that's why they're really so hard to find, an honest mechanic, an honest auto technician. I want to talk to you for a second about Charlie Kalani at Charlie's Auto Repair in Lakewood. Charlie is the real deal. He understands, and I've talked about this for some time now. Charlie understands what it means to take care of someone, customer service wise, without making them feel afraid of getting ripped off. That's what he does. He also understands the modern vehicles as well as or better than just about anybody in the industry. Charlie knows about the sensor issues, the wiring issues, the mystery dashboard light, all of the electronics that make the modern car like a computer more than it is a transportation method. So Charlie gets it. And then Charlie gets what it means to walk into a garage knowing that you don't know what they're talking about. You don't know what the parts are. And when they tell you you need a new one, you're at their mercy. You're at their mercy. If they tell you you need a new Johnson rod, you got to get a Johnson rod. That was from Seinfeld, by the way. Charlie won't upcharge you. He's not going to replace anything that doesn't need to be replaced. Like I said, it's an honest mechanic. That's why I've been sending people to him for years, and I'm going to continue to do so. Call Charlie, make an appointment for your car or your light truck, whatever your needs are. By the way, if you get an e-check and you fail, if you need an e-check and you fail, take it to Charlie. He will find out exactly what is causing that fail, and he'll sometimes just return your car to you with that e-check pass. 216-470-0170. 216-470-0170. We got to get an acronym for that somehow, Charlie, just to make it easier. But call Charlie and Charlie's Auto Repair, and he'll take great care of you. By the way, he's a patriot extraordinaire, and that's why he gives 10% discounts to first responders, military veterans, and concealed carry license holders. So if you fit one of those bills, 10% off. And again, no upcharges, no unnecessary parts replacements. It's a mechanic you can trust. So please consider Charlie's Auto Repair in Lakewood. All right. It is 11 minutes after the hour, so I'm a little bit late getting to her, and I do apologize for that, but I want to bring to the stage now a candidate for State Central Committee, which is of extraordinary importance if you have been paying attention to some of the guests that we have had over the course of the last 2 weeks. Last week, I spoke with Jonathan Broadbent about precinct strategy and about the need to make sure that all of these Central Committee spots are filled, that these seats are filled. And then earlier this week, I spoke with Tom Hack about that. And now we're going to talk to one of those candidates. Doris Peters is with us. There she is. Hi, Doris. How are you?
Good morning, Bob. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm busy, and I'm trying to juggle chainsaws over here, Doris. That's how I'm doing. But it's good to see you, and it's so nice that you were willing to come on and talk about your race and to talk about how important it is to what the role of these particular seats are. So let's start there. Let's talk about where your district is, or what your particular committee seat will be, and then explain why you're running.
Okay, thank you so much for having me on your program, Bob. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
My name's Doris Peters. I have served on the State Central Committee before. I live in Parma, and Parma was always districted with West Park, Cleveland, and Lakewood. And so I was first elected in 2014 to the State Central Committee. This is a volunteer position. The committee is made up of 66 members. Ohio has 33 Senate districts. So there's one man and one woman elected to those positions to be on the committee. And they serve as the Board of Trustees of the Ohio Republican Party. They meet 4 times a year, and they have 3 functions. They elect the chairman of the Ohio Republican Party. They oversee the finances of the party, and they also endorse candidates for statewide positions. Now, recently, many of my constituents don't want us to endorse statewide candidates. They want to make the decision. So that's what my decision has been, to let our Republican voters in the primary elections select their choice for governor, secretary of state, state treasurer, state auditor, those positions. So like I said, I've served on the committee before. I was chairman of the platform committee, and I made sure that pro-life was the first plank on the platform. Now, since 2 years ago, the state redistricted and put Parma with Strongsville, North Royalton, Broadview Heights, Middleburg Heights, Brooklyn, Brook Park, Berea, and North Olmsted, and Olmsted Township, and Olmsted Falls. So I'm running in a new district, meeting a lot of new people, and I'm knocking on doors. Last night, I missed your text because I was knocking on doors. I had silenced my phone, talking to the voters in the district and introducing myself and asking that they vote for me on May the 5th. And this election is only in the primary election in the spring. I don't run against a Democrat in the fall. This is only in the
That's
primary.
Yeah, because this is for the ORP or the Republican State Central Committee. So there will be no Democrat that you are competing against. So this is it. This is it on May 5th. This is when you'll either be in or out.
Right.
Okay. First of all, congratulations on all of your hard work. I mean, that's amazing that you're out there and you missed my text because you were knocking doors. It's a thankless job, whether you're knocking doors for yourself in your own race or, for another candidate. I tell people at every speech that I give and everybody every group I'm privileged to talk to in some way, shape, or form. Some of the most important jobs are the unknown jobs or the unseen jobs. People that aren't in, don't have a huge platform. They're not on a stage or they're not behind a microphone or whatever, but they're out there working behind the scenes. That's how elections are won. That's how platforms are developed and policy is developed, and it's extraordinarily important. So I love that you've been a volunteer for so long, and that's what you are here too, because you said it yourself. It's an unpaid job.
Right.
You're asking to do a whole lot of work for no compensation whatsoever. That's literally the nature of volunteerism and grassroots dedication, right?
Right. Right. I've been an alternate delegate for President Trump in 2020, but then they were so restrictive, so I never got to really be at the RNC convention, but I was an alternate delegate for that too. I've been endorsed by the Ohio Value Voters, John and Diane Stover, and I've been endorsed by the Right to Life Action Coalition. That's the coalition of all the Right to Life groups in Ohio. Cincinnati Right to Life, Toledo Right to Life, Cleveland Right to Life. And I've also been endorsed by the Strongsville Republicans, which I'm very grateful for. I've been to many of their meetings and all the meetings in the district, really, Middleburg Heights, North Royalton, Broadview Heights. I'm also president of the Parma Republicans, and we've had you at our meetings, Bob, and we really...
I'm waiting for a return engagement, by the way. So
okay, well, we'll make that happen. No problem.
Yeah, it's a great group, and I appreciated that invitation. Boy, the list you're in the middle of right now is extraordinary. How much work that you have actually done, Doris, and this is I can't imagine anybody in your district, for State Central Committee, thinking anybody can do any more than you have done already and continue to do. What drives you?
Well, when I was still working, I'm retired now, but when I was still working, I wasn't happy with the woman that represented me. And I was living in West Park. My first husband had passed away. I raised my son and daughter in West Park. And the woman who was on the State Central Committee representing me, I wasn't too happy with her. She was not a true conservative. So when my mother passed away, I got a little bit of money and I ran. When the position was open, there was no incumbent. And I've been honored to serve the people in the district since, like I said, 2014.
2014, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the chairman, this is a 2-year term. So the chairman in 2016 knew that I was a real conservative. So he hired... or no, he didn't hire. He endorsed a pretty young lawyer to run against me. And I'm not young and I'm not a lawyer. So she won in 2016. So I ran again in 2018 against her. And the election came out as a tie. And do your listeners know what happens in Ohio when an election comes out in a tie?
I have no idea.
In Ohio, you flip a coin. So I went in front of the Board of Elections in Cuyahoga County. There were 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans on the board. And the young lady looked at me and said, "This is a real quarter. Now it's heads and tails. It's a good quarter. And which one do you pick?" Well, my volunteers advised me to pick heads. So I picked heads and it came up tails. So she won So you remember, Bob, and tell your listeners, whenever you're in that situation, tails never fails.
Yeah. Well said. What a story. I didn't know that. I had no idea that it was
Yes.
literally pointless.
It was
Well, we couldn't do rock, paper,
5,000.
scissors or something, at least to give you a fighting chance, best 2 out of 3.
No, it was 5,128 votes each in
Wow.
2018. So she won, but then we watched, I had volunteers helping me watching the official recount. And we saw them at the Board of Elections pull out 10 precinct names in the district and pull those ballots, count them by hand. All the numbers came up the same.
Wow.
Then they pulled all the ballots from the district, ran them through their high-speed counting machines. All the numbers came up the same. So she won. That was 2018. But then she found her dream home out of the district. So I called the chairman. I said, I'm very interested in serving in this position. So I've been serving since 2019 on the committee. And then, like I said, they redistricted 2 years ago. So I'm running again because I feel I'm the proven conservative. I've helped other people run their races. I've helped Mike Davila the first time he ran. I helped Peter Corrigan, who ran for Congress too. I've helped many local individuals with their races. So I appreciate your time, and I would ask the voters in those districts, those cities, those suburbs, to vote for me on May the 5th.
Run through those again before you're done here, Doris. The people in which cities in that district?
Parma Heights, Strongsville, North Royalton, Broadview Heights, Middleburg Heights, Brooklyn, Brook Park, Berea, North Olmsted, Olmsted Falls, and Olmsted Township.
All right. So
a little bit of one too.
So anybody watching this right now, whether you're watching it live or you're going to catch this on the replay later on, if you live in that district and you're a Republican, any one of those cities there, Doris Peters is your person for State Central Committee. As you can tell by her story that she just told, she was born to serve. She is working so very hard and has tried again and again and again to continue to serve. And it's such an important position. Doris, before you go, give me your description, if you will, of the importance of the State Central Committee. As I said, Jonathan talked about this, the role that the committee plays in getting the right candidates in the right positions, making the decision as to whether or not the ORP should endorse or not, all of those things that, kind of, I guess, just go under the radar. They're not as high profile positions, I suppose, to serve on the Central Committee, but the role is extraordinarily important, right?
Right, because we endorse candidates, like I said, and candidates who are true conservatives, people who want lower taxes and are willing to work for lower taxes in Ohio, people who respect and uphold the Second Amendment, and people who are pro-life, definitely, in Ohio. What happened in 2020 with the state going on lockdowns, it hurt our children. Our children are 2 years behind in their education. And I'm a former teacher like you, and I have seen the devastating effects on children. I know many small businesses in Cuyahoga County are no longer because of the lockdowns that the governor and Amy Acton, of all people, put on Ohioans. So we need someone who believes in small businesses, lower taxes for all of us. I've collected over 1,000 signatures for putting the property tax on the ballot. When I lived in West Park, I worked with the people who collected signatures to put the red light cameras on the ballot. And we got those off in Cleveland. So when you drive down Chester Avenue, you don't see those red light speed cameras anymore. So I've been a volunteer in many, many places, many issues with many issues. So we need people who want more freedom in Ohio.
That's well said, Doris. And I don't know too many people more committed to that than you with that resume that you just ran down. So I'm so glad to hear of it. And I'm so glad to put you here. And again, I want everybody who lives in those cities to please make sure that Doris stays on State Central Committee. And looks like my guest. Oh, okay. Marcell is coming on next, and I just got a message from him. He is having a trouble with his link. So, Doris, I'm going to go ahead and end our chat here. Marcell Strbich is coming on. He's a candidate for Secretary of State. But, Doris, thank you so much for everything that you do and for being here today. And I want everybody to make sure that they go out there, if you live in one of those cities, and that is your representative on the State Central Committee, that you make sure that Doris Peters stays there. Doris, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob.
All right. That's Doris Peters joining us, and a tremendous job that she did. I'm going to need her time out of here so that I can set the table for Marcell Strbich.
Okay.
Wonderful.
That's his picture right there. And give me a second or two here, and we'll get him coming up. Meantime, you can enjoy, as always.
Vest on, boots laced. Another name on the paper, another hard case. Got a wife back in Lubbock, kids in their Sunday best. I ain't some villain in a movie, I'm a man doing my best. You can scream in my face, you can block my way, but this badge on my chest means somebody saved today. You hold that sign, I hold this line in my hands. While you're chanting the street, I'm the one who stands. Yeah, you draw your crowd, I draw a line in the sand. Saw you playing for cameras, shoving phones in my crew, spitting words like traitor, like you know what we go through. When you circle that transport like it's some kind of game, there's a scared little girl in the backseat, you don't even know her name. You can scream in my face, you can block my way, but this badge on my chest means somebody saved today. You hold that sign, I'll hold this line in my hands. While you're chanting the street, I'm the one who stands. Yeah, you draw your crowd, I draw a line in the sand. You say you care about people, then you shove them into harm's way. You turn a bus into a battlefield. I'm just trying to get them home today. Call me every name you can think of, I'll still show up when it hits the fan. When the dust clears, when fear's near, we'll see who really ran. You can scream in my face, you can block my way, but this badge on my chest means somebody saved today. You hold that sign, I'll hold this line in my hands. While you chanting the street, I'm the one who stands. Yeah, you draw your crowd, I draw a line in the sand. Yeah, you draw your crowd, I draw a line in the sand.
All right, we are back, and quick timeout is all we needed there to get Marcell squared away. Had a little bit of a link glitch there, but he is now ready and waiting. He is my personally endorsed candidate for Secretary of State in the state of Ohio, Marcell Strbich, joining us now here on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. Marcell, thank you. Sorry about the glitch there with the link, but good to see you again. How are you?
Good morning. Good to be with everybody today. Thank you.
All right, Marcell, we're less than 2 weeks away. How you feeling?
I feel wonderful. You know how I don't know how a marathon runner's supposed to feel at mile 25, but you know, at 26.2, it starts to look really good. And you know, with another 11 days left of early election voting in our season in Ohio, yeah, we're really sprinting, and it seems like the other side's running out of gas.
Well, you know, obviously they've got a lot of, let's just say, a lot of fuel to put back in the tank. I was just talking to Doris Peters about, you know, the endorsement, the ORP giving endorsements and whether or not they should put their foot on the scale of races like this one. And they did. And because of that, your opponent has an awful lot of gas in the tank, meaning a lot of money. You've had to fight this fight so far with less resources, and yet you're doing extraordinarily well. Do you have the juice left to finish this thing?
I do, and I think it has a lot to do with the way we decided to organize our campaign. We went to 60 plus counties and growing. We really coalesced a lot of Ohioans that have reached a point where they just don't want to vote necessarily for who the party tells them to, or they kind of understand at this point that this is a revolving door system that doesn't often involve necessarily a person with the best qualifications. And it's really critical for a Secretary of State race because of what the Secretary of State position is going to oversee: elections and business registration. And I really presented some strong ideas that are rooted in real world experience that I have in the Department of Defense to tackle the real problems of theft of our monies. When it comes to the government benefits fraud programs, the Secretary of State can and should be playing a larger role in that. And we need to, as I've talked to you and the audience over the years, we need to really get at the core issue of where fraud, error, manipulation, and elections starts from. And that's at the point of registration. And that's properly qualifying every single registrant for eligibility, giving the Board of Elections the tools.
Marcell, you went mute there for a second, unless it's just on my end. Did we bump something? Nope. Suddenly I'm not hearing you. You were loud and clear until just now. I don't have you muted on my end. So something went wonky there. Can you hear me, Marcell? Okay. Yeah, I'm not hearing you for some reason. Tell you what, why don't you drop? There you go. There you go.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. It happens. I was muted. I was muted for about 6 minutes earlier in the show because I pushed the mute button to clear my throat during a clip that somebody else. I came back on and forgot to unmute it, so it happens. Marcell, so great explanation about where things are, and I want to get into a lot more of that. And by the way, we're going to have to deal with registration on the state level because it looks like the Save America Act is not going to get through the Senate.
True.
It's not even talked about anymore. It should. But so we're going to have to do it on our level. Everybody in every state is going to have to find out what it takes to make sure that only valid Ohio residents and citizens are registered for our elections. And that is obviously something that is of paramount importance to you.
Yeah. No, I agree. And the thing is, we have the means within Ohio's legislature with the right leadership at the Secretary of State's office to really drive that. And every Secretary of State can be a catalyst for those type of ideas to be pushed out. And the good news is in the last 2-3 years, we've worked on all the legislation. It's there. It's in the House. It just needs a person to shepherd it back through the legislature. And that's why I'm confident that as we run this campaign, we're in the last few miles, if you will, last mile, we're in a position to win this. I mean, this is a highly competitive race, despite the fact that this is the only race that was targeted by the party in the sense to put the pulse on the scale. And I think that actually gave us a further boost because it reaffirmed to people that they are not necessarily reflecting the will of the people and the voters. And the voters are going to always demonstrate that they are the ones that are the party. So we've positioned ourselves really well in this race right now. And we need as many people out there because the turnouts are low, and those turnouts are going to be the difference maker.
That was going to be my next question. In fact, as I understand it, the boards of elections are anticipating like maybe even record low turnouts for whatever reason. I don't know why that would be, but we're talking about maybe 10% projections. Is that what you're hearing?
Yes, it is. In fact, there's and that's from sources of information that are authoritative, like the Board of Elections or some of the districts. It could receive a boost on election day per se, but when you clear the ticket at the top, the governor ticket, the U.S. senator position, right, in order to, for whatever, save resources, the other effect of that is that people now don't necessarily have as much, justification necessarily come out. Now, I think those that understand the importance of the Secretary of State race do. There's a treasurer that's competitive race, and there's a competitive Supreme Court race for justices. So, in that sense, we can truly make a difference. Your vote can count significantly by getting people to the polls here because of that margin. And again, this is to pick the nominee for the party to go forward in the general election. And when we're disappointed often because we get to the general election, we don't like our candidates, and then we have to choose between D's and R's. And it's like, man, I wish I had other choices. You actually do have that opportunity to affect that currently with this Secretary of State race in Ohio.
Every single vote is going to matter if you have that low of a turnout. Every single vote in every single precinct in the state. And I want everybody listening right now to know that. If you are among the 90% that may sit this thing out in the primaries for whatever reason, don't do that. There are some very, very highly important and competitive races here, even if you don't feel like, there's a whole lot to drive you there. This race alone, the one that we're talking about right now for Secretary of State, is reason for you to get out there and cast your vote and vote for Marcell, because he is truly the only candidate who is, what I really love about, you in many respects, Marcell, is that you are addressing things with respect to our elections, not limiting yourself to that, by the way. There are a lot of other things that the Secretary of State is involved in, and you've highlighted many of those before. But you have dedicated yourself, and you have come up with some novel approaches to ensuring and improving election integrity in the state that are so effective and so impressive that your opponent has decided to borrow those from you.
We've had that issue, yes. It's kind of, on one hand, plagiarism is a form of flattery, but when it comes to politics, it's really disingenuous. And I think I'm not the only one that's noticed it. As we've gone across the campaign trail, over time, we went from saying all our Ohio elections are safe and secure and they're the gold standard, that was 6 months ago, to saying, yes, there is fraud and we have to get rid of drop boxes and we need proof of citizenship, and I'm for paper ballots. And I'm glad that I've converted my opponent. Except what I don't think is that a lot of Ohioans appreciate the fact that my opponent hasn't done any of those things in 8 years when he was in the legislature. Election security, election validity has never been a core issue of his. He's only become Johnny come lately because he's down in the polls in the last days, and it's desperation time. And so they have to come out and they have to try to act like they've been with President Trump this whole time. They've taken on all of these issues over time. And the reality is, 3 weeks ago, when I was presenting before the Ohio State Legislature to close the photo ID loophole for mail-in ballots, my opponent, the treasurer, was nowhere to be seen. He hasn't even gone out on record to say he's for closing that photo ID gap for mail-in ballots. So here he is telling people in audiences when he's out on the stump campaigning that he's for photo ID for all methods of vote casting, but he couldn't be anywhere to be found or be troubled to come out on record and support HB 577, a bill sponsored by Ron Ferguson, which would stop over 1 million Ohioans from being able to get away with casting their ballots by mail, which is a susceptible form of potential cheating, without needing a copy of a photo ID. And this just goes to show you that people talk, but they don't do. And we got to stop voting for career politicians like my opponent who recycle through the system, say to us they're going to go do things, and they never do it. And that's why he's in real trouble, because people are figuring this out.
Marcell, I think it's extremely important to point out, too, that you have come up with a lot of innovation and a lot of ideas on how to improve elections in the state, and which you've done for the last 3 years or so, leading to your run. And is that the reason why you think he refuses to debate you? You have challenged and challenged and challenged again, and he basically feels like he doesn't need to debate you because, I don't know, because of the endorsement by the ORP. But what does it tell you? I just want everybody to know that this race is going to be held, and people are going to go vote on May 5th, if they're not already early voting, for people that they have not seen face to face or side by side on a debate stage.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of weakness, and it's a sign of recognition that I am the more qualified candidate for the subject matter that we have to tackle on elections and business registration and fraud and that kind of thing. And I don't think, these guys that have been in the political system for a long time are used to trading endorsements for favors. And there's a patronage component, unfortunately, that develops. And so he dismissed and discounted my candidacy, as did the ORP many months ago. But I went to the people. I ran a traditional voter engagement campaign. I leveraged my wide network of supporters nationally as well as within the state. And I demonstrated through grit, through merit, that I can compete in the very same level, in the very same game that the party forces all outside candidates to play. And I think no matter what happens, I have come the furthest along of any candidate, any grassroots, if you want to call it candidate, in the state of Ohio to this point, to put basically someone who thinks it's their turn to the test. And this would be what makes the Republican Party stronger if they allow this process to play out. And that's how talent is discovered. That's how people are drawn. And the one deficit that worries everybody across the board in 26 is whether the people will show up and vote, whether there will be enough enthusiasm. If you want enthusiasm, you have to meet the voter where they are in terms of what they want to understand and what they want to see done. And every step of the way, whether it's property taxes, which I've signed the petition, which I've been in support of that citizen movement because I understand it's already making a positive difference, whether it's data centers, which expanded in an unmitigated and in regretful way where people weren't able to understand the impacts. They still don't understand it, even though there's value in new technology and innovation that does transpire from them. I'm willing to talk about each and every issue from pro-life to election integrity. And that's what people want to understand. They want to understand that the person who's running for them is really for them, isn't going to be somebody who's going to compromise out because special interests. And that is who we need to step up and run for office anywhere, anytime, any place, local, state, and federal. And if we can do that, some of us can prevail. It will change the entire disposition of the political ecosystem in Ohio, which is calcified around the same 3 or 4 people rotating amongst one another. And I'm trying to break that through that. And I am on the precipice of doing that with the support of this audience and other audiences. And once we do that, Ohio's political system will never be the same.
Marcell, I'm glad you brought that part up because it's one of the biggest reasons I went ahead and endorsed you and I've liked you for a long time. And I'm not trying to throw stones at anybody in the statewide offices, but the fact that your opponent is trying to decide from day to day, or at least over the course of the last several months, what he's going to run for. Am I going to run for governor? Maybe I'm going to run. Am I going to run? Oh, you know what? There's an endorsed candidate for governor. Maybe I'll try to be his LG or okay, well, this one's open. I'll run for that one. You have been singular of focus on the Secretary of State, on elections in particular. Again, you just listed a lot of the other things and your platforms are and your ideology is about, but specifically you have said this is the one job that you want because you're not trying to be a politician. You're not trying to start a career where you're working in a one job after another for a long time when it comes to elected offices. This is your one focus. And I think that's what will serve the people, the voters in particular of the state of Ohio best, as somebody who wants to be in this job, not just the one that's open now.
That's right. I'm a problem solver at heart, right? I look at the election system like an entire system, from the registration, vote casting, vote counting, vote certification, and the auditing. And I look at it and I say, what are we doing well and what areas are at risk? And that's the key word. Risk management. See it as a risk management framework. And then if we need to change the process, we change the process. If we have to advocate for doing business a different way or laws, then we do that. But this is a fight. This is a fight for our country. Everything in terms of the transfer of power begins through your elections. And we have to ultimately put people in there that have a backbone that are going to take spears from all sides. I don't believe we're living in a day and age after a constitutional crisis ravaged our country for 5 years with open borders, and people lost confidence. Our institutions weaponized against the citizens themselves and through people who are law-abiding people in very difficult situations. And I never forgot that. I never forgot that it's only took a few percentage of Americans to stand up to tyranny for this to be reversed. And unless there are people who are in positions of authority with that mindset and understanding, we are subject to falling right back into that circumstance, depending on the persons or the party or whomever wins whatever election. So now's the time to fortify it. Now's the time to get people in who every day wake up with, what do I have to do to improve and make circumstances for people, for our institutions better, and to restore trust and confidence, because that is the whole reason I'm running, to restore trust and confidence in elections that were lost, because I don't want people disengaging from the political process. The day that happens and we become apathetic and complacent as Americans will be the day that we lose our country, and it'll happen from within. It will never happen from without. And that was told by Abraham Lincoln and many that came before us, and we have to be true to that.
Marcell, I want to ask you about I have to ask you about this. The accusations, and I don't know if it's from the Sprague camp directly or supporters of his, tangential or otherwise, basically complaining about your social media and, in fact, filing complaints with the Election Integrity Commission over social media and your campaign finance disclosures. Can you clear that up for us, Marcell?
Yeah, well, as an outside candidate, you have to look for resourceful ways to find means to reach lots of voters. And because I wasn't preordaining myself in the political role, I was an advocate for years. I didn't anticipate running. An opportunity was brought to my attention in September of 25 by one of my campaign managers who alerted me to the fact that we have a social media account that's inactive from a former candidate who ran for governor, Joe Blystone. And Joe Blystone had 79,000 followers on a social media account. So we looked up the policy on Facebook. And Facebook's policy is if the person who owns a social media page wants to transfer it to you, they can do that. And so we looked at that from a legal perspective. There's nothing within Ohio law suggesting there's a value attributed to transferring an inactive social media page account. And from my perspective, reaching audiences was going to be the way, especially digitally, to get my message and voice across to Ohioans, knowing that the establishment has all of the party machinery that they give to their handpicked opponent for free, right? Do they ever report in-kind contributions from the list of phone numbers at the county level that they give? I don't know the answer, but I don't think so. So what ended up happening is we had such great success on this social media page with tens of thousands of followers. We made millions of impressions, and it cost nothing because we didn't pay for any digital advertising on that account, which would be what you would have to report if we did do that. So we just found an ingenious way to get our voice stronger in the digital medium space. And that frustrated my opponent and the those that want to endear themselves to my opponent. So they filed a specious campaign finance complaint at the very last minute after early voting to try to basically throw my campaign off, to try to, who knows, run with a narrative that I'm under whatever investigation. And it didn't work. We responded to it in kind, and they have to change the law if they don't want people to do that. And it wouldn't surprise me if they did, to try to keep people out from ever competing on a one-on-one level basis. But these are the type of things that you have to have a good team. And I have a professional team. I report all my money. If I didn't, trust me, they would be on me, scrutinizing me so closely, especially because, again, I'm a outside challenger to the status quo system. So, this is going to continue, I presume, in the very last days. But bottom line is they're grasping for straws. Whatever they're going to throw at me, Marcell's a former Democrat. That's nonsense. No one has a concept of that idea. Never presented in that way here. Everything I'm doing is issue based, and whatever other things. We're prepared to smack all that down. If they had it, they would have dropped it. If they try anything in the last hour, it's because they're desperate and they know they're losing. And I think that's the reason why they dropped it. My phone has practically equal name ID to me. And if they had a good poll, they'd be presenting that poll, wouldn't they? Why didn't Senator Moreno, Vice President Vance, why didn't President Trump, why didn't all these entities endorse my opponent? Because they know that this is the candidate that can unseat this person. And they know that we have the people with us. And nobody wants to alienate the people for the general election. So the power is always going back to the people. And that is why we aligned ourselves to the people for this Secretary of State race.
Speaking of the polls then, Marcell, what is the latest because you're right. I think if he had a really good favorable poll, it would be out. They'd be pushing it. I haven't heard anything. What are you pushing?
Well, we had an 8-point lead, scientific poll, very reputable firm that was previously contracted by the Ohio Republican Party. That was late January. And I'm still aware of and hearing that there are some other polls as well that are showing us still in that lead, single digits. But all that can change on election night. So I don't want people to think that we got this. We don't have it unless, you get out and tell 10 people or more and you amplify the social media, which I'm very active in pushing out there, because that's going to be the difference maker in a very low turnout election. So again, we're within striking distance of a historic victory and upset for the people in the Secretary of State race. We would be the most assertive state when it comes to election integrity with me as your Secretary of State. Let's not blow this, Ohio. Let's send the proper message. Let's do it the right way. And I would be honored and privileged to earn your vote between now, if you would vote today, all the way up until May 5th, 2026.
And Marcell, last question for you, and I appreciate all of this information. What are you going to do on election night?
I'm going to be in Medina. I'm taking it all back to where it began in May. I'm big into symbolic gestures. That day, I was there with 120 people with John and Melanie Stolarski of Ohio Freedom Fighters. I had a wonderful introduction by you, Bob, which I can never forget. And it wasn't like it was easy to come and support me, right? You were just there to kind of introduce. You weren't endorsing or anything at the time. But I'm going to bring it
publicly anyway. But I wouldn't have agreed to that if I didn't support you for this. As you know, I said to you on the air that you should run for Secretary of State.
You did, and that was my birthday. And so again, more symbolism. So I believe what you start, you finish, and I'm doing that for my volunteers. I want all my volunteers from across the state to come there. We have a watch party. We're going to have kids. We're going to have food. I even got some of my Croatian ancestry folks from Lake County up there who are bringing some Croatian dishes, I think, because I've gone to the Croatian Center up there, the American Croatian Lodge. So, we'll get some support from that community as well. So yeah, I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to do it the classy way. We're going to have a great time, no matter what happens. But, I think God always favors those who pursue truth and who are strong-willed.
Well, Marcell, I think we're going to talk again before Election Day. It's less than 2 weeks away now, but maybe the day before, just last second messages to get out there. And of course, early voting is going on right now. So if you don't want to wait until May 5th, go to your Board of Elections right now and make sure you cast your vote and cast it for Marcell. I think he is the right man for this job at this moment. And it's the only job that he wants. Again, he's not looking for another one. He's not deciding on which one he wants to run for. This has been his singular focus for a very, very long time now. And I think Ohio would be best served by giving him that spot. Marcell, thank you for coming on as always. Tremendous job. Way to respond to the the dirty tricks that sometimes are you liking politics? You've never been a politician until now.
No, I like it,
but you're seeing the dirty tricks that you've had to respond to, and some of the reporting you for this violation or that when there are no violations. How do you feel about politics now that you're in it?
It doesn't dissuade me because I'm a goal and objective oriented person, right? And so I look at that as noise. I'm a signal guy. So I go to the signal, right? And the signal is what the people are asking me to do. And it's the hope and the prayers that many people across the state have levied toward me. So that is what drives and inspires me to go through this gauntlet, to get up and come home every other night at 12:30 or 1 in the morning, driving from Eastern Ohio. And I've been doing that a lot, right? And so I get my 4 hours of Trump sleep. I wake up, I make breakfast for my kids in the morning. I take my daughter to the daycare, and then I just get right back into, what do we got to do next? Right. And I'm doing it pretty much using this and using, this and I'll tell you what, it's working, and don't try to fix what's already working. Right, Bob?
Amen to that. Amen to that. Well, I'm glad that it hasn't dissuaded you yet anyway. So, Marcell, great work again, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you, sir.
Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
God bless. Marcell Strbich for Secretary of State. That is the guy. And again, I don't do endorsements in primaries, and I haven't over the course of my years doing political talk on radio and now online. The largest reason for that is you endorse one candidate, the other guy wins. They're going to be bitter and petty sometimes, and then not give you access to them and not allow you to, interview them and get the messages to the people that you need to. So it's kind of a difficult thing, but I felt compelled in this case to issue an actual public endorsement of Marcell Strbich because I think it is that important. And that is not to disparage his opponent, Robert Sprague. It's really not. I think Robert is a good guy. And I think he's done a fine job, an admirable job as Ohio treasurer. But if he ends up being the Secretary of State, I'm going to root for his massive success in trying to do some of the things that Marcell has articulated, that need to be done. So I think he'd be fine, but I just think Marcell is better. That's it. That's what we do, right? When we make decisions, who's the best person for the job? Not who's going to be adequate at it or will be, but who's the best person for the job. And I think that's Marcell. So I really, really hope, if you have not yet voted early, if you're going to vote early, vote for Marcell. If you're going to wait till May 5th, vote for Marcell. I just think it's an important thing for Ohio. All right. Having said that, let me dive back into the chat now and see where we are. It looks like a lot of people are still talking about the Vivek Ramaswamy conversation that we were having before. If you missed that, we still have a lot of good stuff up there from the SPLC. Did you learn it yet? What is the SPLC? Socialists pushing leftist crap. That's what the Southern Poverty Law Center is. So we covered that in a great depth in the first hour of the show. So let me dive in and see what we have here on the live stream, or excuse me, on the live chat. And it's, again, since Dylan is sick today, I'm doing this all myself, so I'm trying to figure out exactly where we are. All right, who does this song? Yeah, that was what I played before Marcell came on, because we had to get his link all squared away there. And it's the same band that plays the show open, okay? Red, White, and Raise Hell. It's the same band, and that band is a computer. It's AI generated. That's who does. Oh, look at that. Sherry actually responded to it. Hold the Line is an AI collab Bob did with AI. Yeah, that is exactly what it is. I put in a few lyrics that I wanted. I put in a suggested title. I said, this is what it's about. I want some, and in that particular case, Line in the Sand was in support of ICE. I did that like a month before our ICE appreciation party. And it was about these unappreciated and often slandered and defamed law enforcement agents, and the hell that they're going through to try to keep people safe, which is exactly what law enforcement officers do. That's the reason I wrote it, or to the part that I did write, and then I told AI to write the rest, and then they perform it. It's incredible. The machine cranks out all of that, but it is a great song. And so is Red, White, and Raise Hell. So I don't know what else to say. I know AI is not everybody's favorite thing. It's not my favorite thing. It's a dangerous thing, but it can be used for good purposes too. Creating that song was one of them. So thanks for asking. Appreciate that. What are the polls looking like for Marcell? Well, you just heard what he said. The most scientific one was the one from back in January that showed him +8. Others since then, I haven't seen, and I don't know the veracity or the scientific nature of them, or how accurate they are, what the plus minus is with respect to the range of, or a margin of error. I don't know, but he is in a neck and neck race. From name recognition alone, he's an unknown. Robert Sprague has been a career politician. From that standpoint alone, Marcell seems to be doing just fine. Let's see, just like his bump video. Oh yeah, Red, White, and Race Hell, same kind of AI collab. Yep, that's correct. Sherry says it's my fight song. I love that. I absolutely love that. Let's see here. Rural seems set on Strbich. Need new blood in Columbus. I do consider Vivek new blood. We need to wash away the mess Kasich laid before us now. I voted for Trump back in the 2016 primary. Golden escalator. Sherry back in with, I've been a Marcell voter since I first heard him. Brilliant mind and knows exactly what he needs to do. I agree with that too. 20-year Air Force intelligence officer. He's got it together. And that's not, again, to impugn anybody else. I just think he's the best man for this job. Value voters fully vetted and then chose to endorse Marcell. That is true. Kasich became such a stick in the mud. I hope he's not running shadow ops to subvert. So do I. Nobody outworks this guy. Completely agree. Are they funding Casey? Is who funding Casey? Oh, SPLC? Is that what that is about? I'm not going to go there. Don't know. If Marcell can win the primary, his blueprint to victory will scare the Ohio GOP. That's a very, very interesting and observant point. Wow. Far West Sider. If Marcell can win as an outsider grassroots candidate and defeat in a primary the ORP endorsed candidate, the career politician, playing the musical chairs with the statewide offices with other guys. If Marcell wins, that will scare the GOP, because holy cow, now they know that their stranglehold on power has been broken. And they're going to have to start thinking about actually trusting the people and letting the people decide rather than the ORP decide on these endorsements. That's a very, very astute point, Westsider. Thank you. Let's see, what else? See only Marcell signs south of Cuyahoga County. Sign going up in my yard today. I probably should have asked Marcell where people can get the yard signs. I'll find out and I'll let you know. In fact, I could probably text him before the show is over and ask him. Maybe. Yeah, let's voice text it. Hey, Marcell, people want to know where they can get yard signs, exclamation point. I'll tell you what he says if he gets back in time here. It is already 9:01, but let me get a few more comments here from the chatters. I like Sturbich's what can I do for my country mentality. K6 rules-based order has got to go. Sick of rhino games. Me too. Like I said, Strbich wants the job. Sprague wants the pension. I'm not going to disparage Sprague that way. I think he wants the job too. But again, what he and others, the game that they play is I want the job that's open. I'm term limited out of the job I'm in. I want the next one that's open. That's fine, because some of these guys are good. I like Keith Faber. I like Dave Yost. I like some of these guys that have been in different positions. I'm okay with doing that. But if there's somebody better that is really singularly focused on a job because it's all they want and all they know, or what they know the best, that's the guy. That's the way I see it. I got 3 signs for Marcell. For those who want one, pick them up in Mayfield or Lakewood. How about that? Charlie, you know what? Pick them up when you take your car to Charlie's Auto Repair in Lakewood. There you go. How about that? Ask him, say, hey, fix my car and give me a sign. He's got 3 of them. Let's fast forward through some more of these comments. If Sprague wins, we may see perfection in nothingness, like what we got from Pam Bondi. Got to take risks to make real changes. What else do we see here? KC, it's good, Bob, good to catch up with you. I know you'll remember me by this. You gave my son tickets to announce play ball at the Indians game in 2007. Holy cow. What a memory. And thank you for that blast from the past. That's kind of cool. I do remember that because in 2007, my kids were little and enjoyed that stuff themselves. So, wow, how about that? Welcome. Thanks for finding me here on online. Now that you know where we are, make sure you share that with other people as well. All right, that's going to do it. I'm going to get you some vibe music to exit the show and take into the rest of your day. There you go. While we do that, please, look at that. Somebody just found me for the first time since 2007. How about that? I've been on radio for 28 years. I've been on this for 3.5 months now, going on our 4th month. And I want people to know that we're here. So do me a favor, please. Check your email list, contact list, check your text chat list, and send a note to everybody. Send them a link to this channel, to this Rumble channel. Let them know, hey, Bob France is on live here, and we are making a difference in Northeast Ohio and hopefully beyond that in the very near future. So thanks, everybody. Don't forget, hit the thumbs up button, hit the bell, the notification bell, and hit the join button to join us in the locals community. Everybody be well, be safe, and stay free. We will see you tomorrow. All right, that's my cue.